You know, there are some fears that just never really go away. They just change their shape, hiding out in the shadows of our stories. Tonight, we're going to go hunting for the oldest and maybe the most human monster of them all, the werewolf. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This was never really a story about a beast with claws and fangs. It was always a story about us. So, to really understand why this legend has so much staying power, we're going to peel it back layer by layer. We'll start with its ancient origins and bring it all the way into the modern day. This is our game plan. Okay, so let's jump right in. And for a minute, I want you to forget all the Hollywood special effects, the silver bullets, the whole shebang. We first need to understand what this creature was actually created to explain. So the official term is lycanthropy. It comes straight from the Greek, lykos for wolf and anthropos for human. Wolf-human. It's a concept that has haunted us for literally thousands of years, this terrifying idea that the line between man and beast isn't just thin, it can be erased completely. Which, of course, leads to the big question. Why? Why did we need to invent this myth in the first place? What unspeakable truth about ourselves did we need a monster to help us confront? And there it is. Simple as that. See, long before we had psychology, before we had terms like trauma or uncontrollable rage, we had the werewolf. When a person did something so brutal, so utterly savage that it seemed inhuman, the explanation wasn't about why they did it, it was about what they had become. And this takes us all the way back to the very first werewolf story. And get this, it wasn't really a horror story at all. It was more like a courtroom drama where a god was the judge. The myth of King Lycaon is just brutally simple. He does something monstrous. He serves human flesh to a god, just to test him. And Zeus's punishment? Oh, it's poetic justice. He doesn't kill the king, no. He just makes the king's outside finally match his inside. And this is the absolute key to the original myth. You didn't become a beast because of some random magical spell or an unlucky bite. Nope. You became a beast because you acted like one. Your actions had real physical consequences. But this idea, this core fear, it wasn't just a Greek thing. It went global. And pretty much every culture that adopted it created a version of the werewolf that reflected its own deep-seated anxieties. So in medieval Europe, it got all tangled up with fears of the devil and witchcraft. For the Nordic berserkers, it was a way to explain the absolute fury of battle, a state where a warrior kind of became less than human. And in France, the loup-garou was a more tragic figure, a symbol of what happens when poverty and hunger push a good person way past their breaking point. You see, the details change, but the question lurking underneath is always the same. It's this universal fear about just how fragile our own humanity really is. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the most famous parts of the myth, the full moon and silver. They're not just random weaknesses, they are incredibly powerful symbols. That's right. The whole idea that you have to change under a full moon is actually a pretty new addition. It was added by storytellers to give a physical, external trigger to what was always an internal, moral problem. So why the moon? Well, think about it. It's the perfect symbol for an uncontrollable force. It pulls the tides, it's linked to animal cycles, and of course the word lunacy comes directly from Luna, the moon. It basically became poetic shorthand for madness taking over. And silver? Well, that wasn't just some convenient monster slaying material either. In folklore, silver represents purity and truth. So when silver hurts a werewolf, it's a metaphor. It's like only purity and truth can actually harm the corruption. In fact, the pain it causes is proof that the human is still in there, fighting back. Now, to really, truly grasp the unique terror of the werewolf, you have to compare it to its famous rival, the vampire. This is where the core fear just becomes crystal clear. A vampire is cold, calculating. They're in complete control. They choose to be evil. A werewolf, though, they lose all control. The real terror of the werewolf isn't being hunted by a monster. It's the deep-seated fear that you will become the monster, and you'll hurt the people you love most, and you won't even know you're doing it. The werewolf is a walking, breathing symbol for all the parts of ourselves we can't command. It's the rage that just boils over, the trauma that triggers a violent reaction. It's the absolute, gut-wrenching terror of losing your own identity to raw instinct. And that brings us right back to today. Because, see, the curse never really went away. We just stopped calling it a curse and started using different words for it. Seriously, just look at any modern story with a werewolf. It's almost never just about a monster anymore. It's a metaphor for an internal struggle. It's about the chaotic transformation of puberty, the battle with anger, or the fight to control the parts of your own mind that feel like they're betraying you. The monster is just a symptom of a very human problem. And that is why this legend is never going to die. Because we, as people, will never stop being terrified by that one simple question. What if the real monster isn't somewhere out there in the dark, but it's waiting inside of us?